Today, we're diving into a system that's supposed to be the ultimate safety net for vulnerable kids. But what happens when that net has holes? We're talking about what happens when the very places meant to provide care just aren't enough.
Just think about that for a second, seriously. When a kid's home isn't safe anymore, when the adults who are supposed to protect them just can't, where on earth are they supposed to go?
Well, for thousands of kids, the answer is a place called a Child and Youth Care Center, or a CYCC. It's supposed to be a sanctuary, a safe harbor. But way too often, the promise and the reality are two totally different things. So let's start with what these centers are meant to be. What's the ideal? What's the mission they're supposed to be on?
Okay, so a CYCC at its core is a residential facility. It provides 24/7 care for kids who've been legally removed from their homes. They're there for one simple reason. Home, for whatever reason, is no longer a safe place for them to be.
And those reasons are really, really serious. We're talking about situations of deep neglect, where a child's basic needs just aren't being met. We're talking about physical, emotional, or even sexual abuse. Cases of pure abandonment, or situations where a parent is struggling so much with substance abuse that they simply can't care for their child. These are the heavy, heavy traumas these kids are carrying with them when they walk through those doors. But here's the thing. Once a child gets inside the system that's supposed to help, a whole new set of problems can start. Researchers and people on the ground have identified 7 major challenges that can completely undermine what these centers are trying to do. Let's walk through them. First up, it starts at the top, a lack of qualified management. Running a place like this requires a very specific, very deep understanding of childhood trauma. And often, the people in charge, with the best intentions, just don't have that specialized background.
And that problem at the top trickles down. This leads right to challenge number 2, not enough professional staff. We're talking about shoestring budgets where essential roles like mental health counselors or therapists are seen as luxuries, not necessities. So kids are left without the expert help they absolutely need to heal.
Now add to that pressure from the outside. Often, the government's main focus is on statistics. It becomes a numbers game. How many kids are in the system? How many beds are filled? The priority shifts from the quality of care each child gets to just collecting data. It's a system that can end up valuing numbers over names.
And when the system is just focused on the numbers, the individual kid gets lost in the shuffle. This leads to what's called passive care. It's this attitude where kids are treated like objects to be managed, not active participants in their own lives. Decisions are made for them, not with them. Their voice gets silenced.
This passive approach doesn't stop with the kids. It also misses a huge piece of the puzzle. There's a serious lack of support for the parents. The system often treats the child in a vacuum, but it fails to tackle the root causes. The poverty, the addiction, the mental health issues that led to the child being removed in the first place.
And you can see this disconnect in the day-to-day life inside the center. That's our 6th problem. The programs themselves can be way off the mark. Activities that are supposed to be helpful can feel sterile, intimidating, or let's be honest, just boring. So the very kids who need to connect the most just check out. So you have poor leadership, not enough support, and disengaged kids. When all of that stacks up, it creates the perfect storm for the 7th and, frankly, the most devastating challenge: secondary trauma. This is when a child who has already been through hell experiences new trauma, like neglect or even abuse, inside the very system that was supposed to save them. It's an absolute catastrophic failure.
So, you have to ask why. Why do these problems keep happening? To really get it, we have to look at the psychology here. This isn't just about bad logistics. It's about how the human brain works and what trauma actually does to a developing child.
It really boils down to something called attachment theory. Basically, it says our first relationships with our caregivers act like a blueprint for how we'll form relationships for the rest of our lives. It's like the foundation of a house. For these kids who've been through neglect or abuse, that foundation is deeply, deeply cracked. And what happens when you have a cracked foundation? You end up with what's called an insecure attachment style. This makes it incredibly hard for a child to trust anyone, to make friends, to even connect with the staff who are trying to help. They've been taught by life that people will let them down. And that's where this idea of trauma-informed care comes in. And it's not just a buzzword, it's a game-changing shift in perspective. It means everyone, from the director to the cook, understands that trauma rewires a child's brain.
It means shifting from asking, "What's wrong with you?" to asking, "What happened to you?" So here's the bottom line. A one-size-fits-all approach is doomed to fail. These kids need specialized, intentional care that goes right to the heart of their emotional and psychological wounds. Anything less just won't work.
Okay, so we've seen the problems and we get the psychology behind them. That's the first step. But the most important part is figuring out how to fix it. So let's look at a blueprint for real, meaningful change. And the absolute core of this change is a total flip in philosophy. We've got to move away from that problem of passive care, where kids are just along for the ride, and move to the solution, child-centered approaches, where they are empowered, they are active participants in their own healing. Their voice actually matters. So how do we get there? Here's a 6-step roadmap. 1. We need national standards to make sure everyone working with these kids has the right training. 2. We have to find the funding for those crucial mental health professionals. They're not a bonus, they're essential. 3. The government has to stop just counting heads and start actually measuring the quality of care. 4. We have to help the parents to fix the problems at home. 5. The programs have to be engaging, designed with kids, not just for them. And finally, number 6, trauma-informed care shouldn't be a suggestion. It needs to be the mandatory, non-negotiable standard of practice everywhere, period.
Now, it's really easy to look at a list like that and just see dollar signs, to see it all as a cost. But that's the wrong way to look at it. This isn't a cost, it's an investment in a child's entire future. Because at the end of the day, the goal is pretty simple, isn't it? We want to make sure that every single kid in this system gets the support they need to do more than just survive their past. We want them to have a real shot at reaching their full potential, to thrive. And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. This isn't just a problem for the government or social workers to solve. It's on all of us. So what is our collective role as a community, as a society, in making sure every single child has a genuinely safe place to heal and to grow?